experience cross-cultural without going abroad or going overseas, because
Yeah.
when like there's tourists or people from abroad visiting Indonesia, I think we kind of can uh, implement what we got from class into the real life.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And you're both mentioning this thing of meeting people from different cultures. What does it mean for you, or why is it important for you to meet people from different cultures? Lisa, maybe you want to start.
First, it's so important. Me personally, I really like meet new people, like meet strangers, because people from different background will have different mindsets,
Yeah.
and at the time we can like sharing our mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, tourism is allow people to come to our areas and just study together.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
And for me, I think tourism is like the easiest way to communicate with people that have like totally different culture from us, so we can learn a lot from it. We can maybe like exchange some values that can be implemented in the country itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my point of view on the tourism.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. And if we sort of try to help tourists come to Indonesia, what is important for tourists to understand? Yeah, before coming, or in the preparation or in the consideration of coming, to understand about Indonesian culture.
In general, I think we need to like do some research about the country that we will visit. For example, we talk about Indonesia here, so we have a lot of customs, like totally different customs from the European country,
Yeah.
from the US, or even in the Middle Eastern, we have like totally different customs. So I think at least we can do some research about the customs, so we don't like experience like a huge culture shock when we visit Indonesia.
Yeah.
For example, people in here always say like terima kasih as a way of saying thank you, and maaf as a way for saying sorry. That's kind of like a magic word anywhere, quote unquote magic word anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think you need to learn like quote unquote the magic word
Yeah.
in a way where you can how is it? In a way that the locals would understand it. So in Indonesia we say like terima kasih, thank you,
Yeah.
and maaf as I'm sorry, and then please as tolong.
Yeah. And Lisa, why, if you have a few words on that, why is it important when you visit another country to learn the so-called magic words or read a bit on the customs? Why would that be important?
Because so here's in Indonesia there is a proverb. It's like di mana bumi dipijak di situ langit dijunjung. So in English it's like where the earth is stepped, on there the sky is up. And in Japanese we also have desa mau acara, negara mau toto. It's like village has ways and state has rules. So it's mean like every like you said before, like every area has different customs. So it's important to learn their custom, but yeah, sometimes we cannot learn all the things. So it's important to say sorry and maaf and terima kasih.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also really appreciated by the locals, of course. I think I can speak for myself. I see that anywhere I go.
Yes.
If you know a couple of the so-called magic words, yeah, it triggers smiles on everyone's faces. Yeah. Okay. No, thanks for sharing. And I want to dive a bit into your studies, because you're both students at vocational college, and you're studying applied English. And I know for a fact, what you also mentioned yourselves, is that there is a great focus on cross-cultural communication. So you already mentioned it a bit, but I'm curious to dive a bit further in on how your studies tie with tourism.
Oh, okay. So, at the first of semester, we have like cross cultural, but it's for Indonesians
Mm-hmm.
because, as you know, that Indonesia has a lot of cultures and a lot of different cultures.
Yeah.
So that's why at first we studied cross cultural because in every English, so when it's focused on public relations, but it's more than that. When we need to communicate with others, it's important to understand what they talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes because we have different culture and different mindset, we just misunderstand. That's why
Yeah, true.
cross-cultural is so important. So we can understand that it's not someone wrong or right, but we just have different minds.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful point.
Yes.
Thank you for making it.
So as Dita saying, in a business settings, I think people will just go like in the Western way, but people obviously come from like different part of the world. So in order to get a deal to be done, I think we need to have some kind of respect and knowledge about not every culture, but at least like the huge culture or like the big culture in the world, so we can say like when someone's like offering you a drink, it's a form of offering peace in some culture,
Yeah.
maybe. And in here in Indonesia, when someone say hello, welcome, we usually shake each other's hand. So it's kind of like it's a peace offering too. It's like,
Yeah.
hi, I'm this, and this, and my name is this, and we basically became friends.
Yeah, yeah. So it's to understand not only the ritual, but the idea behind the ritual, what that ritual means.
Yep.
And in that way, what you also said, Dita, to avoid sort of the misunderstandings and understand that it comes from a good place. Okay. Something maybe a bit different is this sense of community and community service that I've been here 5-6 days, not even that long, and I'm already getting very familiar with tourism and culture being linked a lot with also community service in the sense of helping the community. Maybe you can comment a bit on that, how that is tied together.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. It was also a very long question. So in the discussion of tourism, what I'm noticing as the sense of community service, serving the community, comes up several times. So there seems to be a link between advertising or promoting tourism and supporting the community. So maybe you can comment a bit on how these things are linked in your opinion.
I'm not an expert on that, but
Fair enough.
I think when you take care of a community, you will kind of automatically promote that community. So if we want to raise awareness of that community, for example, we use Instagram right now, so we create an Instagram account. So I think like that's a way of promoting, even though we're not like really promoting that. But I think that's like a way to promote your community. And as for the community service, I think tourism do reduce the Indonesia's poverty level. So I think the tourism, like the tourist spot, the tourism spot will, how do you say it? Will bring the community around the area into like the greater goods.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. And I also just want to add any phrases or any answers that for you make a lot more sense in Bahasa Indonesia, you go for it. That's also okay. You can feel free. Yes?
And what about you, Dita?
Actually, I don't expert like Yohan said, but I'm currently interested with there's if you ever heard about Labuan Bajo, it's
No, I
like
believe I
this
haven't.
Nusa Tenggara. It have Komodo Island, and actually it's quite expensive to go there. But there is like programs like community service program,
Mm-hmm.
and since we have like volunteering, but we also do a community service.
Yeah, I think now that I'm thinking about it, it's because you cannot visit
Destinations.
the destination that
Yes.
you have to take the boat, right? Because you want to preserve.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And Johan, you mentioned as well that tourism becomes sort of a remedy for some humanitarian issues like poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other areas where you see that tourism can sort of solve certain issues in the country?
I think tourism can solve like social problems too. For example, if some group of people in the community fight about something along the way in the making of that tourism spot, I think they will learn something from it. So they will be a lot stronger in a way
Mm-hmm.
in the process of making that community. Does that make sense? Wait. I have a better word for it.
Take your time.
So when like the community have some problems, some internal problems, I think they will learn from it so they can be like a stronger community. Because you can solve a problem when we have reached like a win-win
Mm-hmm.
solution. So I think it will be the community will have a better understanding about why and how to solve a problem
Okay.
if a tourism spots kind of open, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Okay. That they learn to work with the spot being a new tourist
Mhm.
destination.
Like they learn to work with one another, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's my opinion.
Okay. Dita, do you want to add to that?
Actually, this topic is quite. Oh my god. uh, I think I don't have any opinion here, but yeah, I think tourism can solve much like what you can say,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because as you know that tourism is like the most important for our economy, and sometimes when it's have related to tourism, we will look for it like we are keep more attention to it.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay. Thank you.
maybe we can take a little bit break.
Yes.
So, oke, jadi warga budaya kita tadi udah diskusiin banyak hal dari mulai ngenalin program Indonesia and Me, terus juga kita bahas kenapa pentingnya tourism buat atau pariwisata buat kita dan juga buat Indonesia tentunya, dan kita juga bahas sedikit soal mata kuliah cross kultural yang ada di Sekolah Vokasi. Dan kita udah bahas juga gimana sih pentingnya tourism ini beriin pengaruh di suatu komunitas atau masyarakat gitu. Nah, karena kita udah bahas cukup banyak nih, kita mungkin perlu jeda sebentar, jadi kita akan balik setelah jeda yang berikut ini.
Dari Komplek Balai Budaya Minomartani Ngaglik Sleman, inilah Radio BBM, jaringan radio komunitas Yogyakarta.
Community Radio BBM FM, Creation for Nation.
Radio Komunitas BBM FM. Dukunglah budaya Indonesia.
Oke, balik lagi nih bareng kita di program Indonesia and Me, dan tentunya masih ditemani dengan host kece kita Mbak Melike. Oke, Melike.
Thanks a lot, Dita. So before the break, we discussed a bit what tourism means for Indonesia, what tourism means for Dita and Yohan as young students, and also what community service means for tourism and the other way around. And now I'm going to ask something I'm very curious about, and that is in the discussion of tourism and in discussion of tourists coming to Indonesia. In your opinion, are we discussing or targeting a certain group of tourists? Are there different not levels, but are there different categories of tourists that are maybe interesting to discuss?
I think for us, it's just always it's our guest, so it's same no matter where you're from.
Okay, it's a beautiful response.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think in Indonesia we treat tourists like whenever you come from, you're a tourist. Like tourist, like you're not a French tourist, like, or you're not like a Malaysian tourist, but you're just tourist.
Yeah.
So we treat everyone the same.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's yeah. Because I've noticed sometimes when I have traveled abroad that depending on where I say I come from, I might be treated differently. Sounds maybe a bit harsh, but I might be differently interesting. So whether I am a tourist from Turkey or a tourist from Denmark, which is a northern European country, sometimes I've noticed comes off a bit different. So I was curious to hear if for you in this sort of targeting tourists or promoting tourism, if there is a bit of some tourists are more interesting to target than others. But that's what I understand from you. That is actually not the case.
Yes, of course, because actually when you are a tourist and you are polite enough, it's like we are treat you as what you did for us.
Yeah.
Something like that. And
okay.
Actually some locals too who to sell some products or something, we look tourist is money. As long as
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
they want to buy some accessories or some souvenirs,
Mhm.
they are tourists.
Yeah, yeah,
And no matter what country you're from.
yeah. Okay. And does it change? So tourism or tourists often, when we think about tourists, we think about people that are here for the short term. Does this attitude change if it's people staying for the long term? So if it's people staying for a whole study program or people that migrate to Indonesia, does the attitude change then?
For me personally, it's of course it's changed if I know the people or the person.
Mhm.
But for someone who didn't know and actually like our looks is different.
Mm-hmm.
Especially tourists from Europe maybe.
Mhm.
We just looks different and sometimes when they just maybe walking in the streets, I still look Indonesia bisa bule gitu kayak that's foreigners. something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But, like the reality,
Yeah.
we didn't know that
Yeah.
this one actually helps
Yeah.
in Indonesia
For 15
fun.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Especially like in Bali.
Yeah.
I have heard about that many tourists just stay or lives in Bali
Yeah.
for many years.
For many years, yeah.
And maybe if you go to Bali, it will be different. We cannot like, is this tourist or it's just someone who live here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you, Yohan, do you have something to add to this? So does the attitude change whether to whether someone is a tourist or someone who stays here for the long term?
In my own personal opinion, I think the attitude will change in a context that we become more closer, so we can do more like impolite language. We can say like more impolite language, for example, like girl, sis, bro, and etc.
Yeah.
And when we just met, I think Indonesians will treat you politely.
Yeah. Okay, so you can get a bit more informal once you have stayed here for longer. Yeah.
Because you already know the people here,
Yeah.
so I think it will be more informal.
Okay, and in attracting tourists, I know that there are a lot of initiatives going on. I even joined a webinar earlier today on how to accommodate tourists better in the area of Borobudur. Do I pronounce that correctly? Borobudur. So yes, there are quite some initiatives going on. Do you want to mention a few of the initiatives that you know of that are happening to attract tourists, and maybe what could be done in your opinion more to accommodate tourists in either Indonesia as a whole, but it can also be more limited to the Java Island or Yogyakarta?
I just heard that currently, so because Bali is so famous, but
Yes.
Indonesia is just not about Bali.
Fair.
We have a lot of amazing destinations too,
Mm-hmm.
and also I'll promote my own province.
Yes.
It's called
Fair.
Gunung Kidul, and we have a lot of this too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I think government have tried to keep more attention to other destinations
Yeah.
more than Bali.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say that Bali is bad, but Bali is
That was not how we got it. No.
so beautiful too.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid that the audience.
Yeah.
So Bali is so beautiful too for me, and yeah, Indonesia have a lot of beautiful destinations too, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, also I know that now we have focused to more others destinations. So maybe Yohan can add something.
I do agree with Dita. Bali is not overrated. I do believe in that. Bali is not overrated. It's really beautiful. But I think the government right now is trying to share the worldwide focus rather than just Bali. We have like this spot, like this spot, this spot, this spot. So it can be potential tourism spot that tourists will visit in
Yeah.
the near future.
Yeah.
I think that's what the government trying to do for
Yeah.
now, because Bali is like really famous, but people don't talk like Yogyakarta often or Sumatra Island often.
And that's a really interesting point. Do you think that what do you think is a reason for that? First of all, I'm curious to hear. And also, is there something to learn from the way Bali has been promoted to use also in Yogyakarta, for example, or other places? So the way it has been promoted, the way it has attracted tourists, is there something like lessons learned that can be used to attract other places?
I think it's more about time actually. Bali was featured on the golden disc that sent to the outer space. So it was sent, I don't know, in the 90s, I guess. So it's a really long time ago. So I think people will trust what their surroundings tell them, like Bali's so good, Bali's so good, you should go there. And I think people will actually go to Bali because there's a reviews, if I might say it, on Bali.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of good reviews.
So
on
it goes
Bali.
a bit mouth to mouth. You're sitting with friends or with a dinner table. Everyone, chatting about destinations. Bali comes up, and then there
Yeah,
we go.
So even at first, so based on my, I don't know, where I know about it, but even at first, many people just know it's Bali. They didn't know that it's part of Indonesian country. Yes,
I recognize that.
Indonesia, it's been trying to make Bali is our Indonesians too.
Yeah.
Something like that. And now, so I think it's been successful, I guess, to recognize Bali as Indonesian's island.
Yes.
So Indonesia tried to attract others by, if you know Mandalika.
I don't, unfortunately. But
Oh,
please do
it's-
tell.
So it's like
It almost sounds
area.
like my name.
Oh yeah. So it's area in West Nusa Tenggara, and it has a racing circuit for internationals champion, I guess. And I think that's the way government to promote the destinations. And of course for Asians, ATF this year, Asians Tourism Forum, it's held in Yogyakarta.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's the way government just make a place that is amazing place too, but to be more recognized by others by make it a place to conference or I don't know what's said. Just the government invited like other countries to go promote more.
I recognize what you say about Bali a lot because in the Netherlands you have Amsterdam.
Yes.
And I experience a lot in that Amsterdam is more known than the Netherlands, almost, or that they're sometimes viewed as two separate things, as if you're going to Amsterdam is not the same as going to the Netherlands, or that people think that the Netherlands is in Amsterdam, which also obviously totally isn't true. So I recognize what you're saying about Bali, that it's so somehow separate from the rest of Indonesia. And that is, I guess it has a trademark, and then people talk about that. I'm curious if there is something it can be in Bali, but also other places that are successfully in Indonesia, successfully attracting tourists that you think are specific things that could be further implemented, whether that is people speaking English. I'm just shooting some things, maybe that is totally not true, but is there certain things that in your opinion attracts successfully a way of accommodating tourists?
If we talk about accommodations, I think we talk about Mandalika. So last year MotoGP's championships was held in Mandalika. So I think the locals open a spot for hotels or motels. So I think it accommodates tourists better, and later it can be a famous tourism spot for any tourist from around the world because it has a great accommodations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Mandalika has successfully done that. So I think it has the most potential. I don't think that it has the most potential, but I think that it had successfully done the accommodation thing.
Yeah.
So I think it will be huge. I hope so.
Okay.
In several years later.
Okay. You heard it here first by Yohan and Dita.
Yes. Okay. So, like what you say, that language is so important to attract the tourists. And yes, we know that sometimes the tourists want to learn our language, but I know that they cannot learn all of our language and being expert just in 1 month or 2 months.
No,
so
even if we're trying, I want to know it. Even if we're trying.
so it's just we need to learn English too. Like what you said. So here in Yogyakarta, the most famous place is just Malioboro. And I think the reason is because just in Malioboro many what you say, penjual, what is like all the seller are they can speak English. Also what Pak Kun said before is like Malioboro English.
Yeah. Most essential trade communication.
Yes, that's true. So even it's a place that we cannot speak perfect language because we are native. So but we should try it.
Yeah.
So in my province, actually, the accommodations like when even me, I also when I wanna go back home, the transportations is not quite easy. Like in Solo or in Yohan place, even there's an airport and there's a stations. But if you want to go to my place, it's like a hidden gem maybe because there you can only go by motorcycle or bus or car. There is no public transportations like train or something like that, and the what is it?
Also no Gojek.
It's quite far.
Yeah, fair enough.
Even if we and the Medan too, what's we call it?
The terrain. The terrain.
So it's like
The terrain.
it's just so
It's difficult to
Yes.
travel around. Okay. Yeah.
So I think accommodations like in transportations
That's a good point.
should be improved.
Okay.
And then I don't know what should improve in my province. It's like the road is so I don't know.
Yeah.
So difficult. So if you want to make a station or train, it's so impossible to do. And if an airport is too much, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe just let the government think about it.
Yeah. We'll leave that to the government. But what you're
Yes.
saying is that transportation, along with language,
Yes.
are important factors in attracting tourists.
Yeah.
And Johan, what you said as well is sort of the accommodation part that is fit for tourists as well. Okay. Thanks a lot for sharing. I don't know if there are any more remarks on this. Obviously, I've been here only for 5-6 days, so I am also very curious to hear if there is something that you want to add that I haven't had a chance to explore or be curious about.
Can I ask you something?
Of course.
You say that there's like a different level of tourists in the Netherlands. So can you elaborate on that? Maybe?
Yeah, sure. So, what I mean, I don't mean specifically to the Netherlands. I can even say, for example, so I am born and raised in Denmark, but I have family in Turkey. If I go to Turkey to visit my family, to Turkish people, I am a tourist because I am not born and raised there. They see it on me. They even say that they can hear it on my laugh. So I am a tourist there. But I'm not immediately, because of my looks, targeted as the most attractive tourist. So, but if I go with my husband who's Dutch and who is European looking, I do see a different kind of attention. So I do see that he is more targeted as someone who is wealthy because he is tall, white European looking. So in that sense, I've experienced that depending on how you look, you might signal a different kind of wealth, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think that
makes
makes
a lot of
sense.
sense.
Actually, it's also happening here. So here we are Japanese, and there is some people look like Chinese here, but sometimes we look them like, oh, they are Chinese, but actually they are born and raised here in Japan.
Yeah.
So it's like crisis identity here.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. I don't know if you have any more questions for me or.
Oh, there is one question from YouTube.
Oh.
It says, I'm curious, what do students from elementary to undergraduate usually do to promote Indonesian culture? Are there now cultural subjects in the school curriculum?
First of all, halo Mbak Mani, selamat mendengarkan ya. We do have a school curriculum that promotes, I think, the Indonesian culture. For example, we still have a class on local language. For example, here we still do have Japanese classes and English to be more international, I guess. For what do the students from elementary to undergraduate usually do to promote Indonesian culture? Usually, the teacher will ask the student to do some assignments about promoting Indonesia, and they need to put it up in the social media. So I think that's a way to promote Indonesian culture in the school settings.
So I'll add something because you said in elementary school, actually it's like not in curriculum, but maybe depends on my experience. So when I was young, so in my childhood, I often do like traditional dance. Actually, that's not the part of school curriculums, but I think that's promote Indonesians. At least we have like foundations for that, and there is also a subject called prakarya. I guess it's like a subject like economic creative, and at the time we also learned how to. I remember when I was in junior high school, I learned about batik and also other arts like traditional arts, and I think that's the way to promote our traditional culture. How about Melike? Is there any way or any subjects in your school maybe to promote your culture?
To promote our culture, I am not sure actually. I have to be very critical of that because I'm not sure. So I did elementary school in Denmark.
Yes.
Where in elementary school we have history, religion, but very broad. So history not only about Denmark but Europe as well,
yes.
and also a bit around religion. Also, not only about the religions that are present in the country, but also around. I think maybe because Denmark does not rely so heavily on tourism, maybe it's not. I'm just thinking out loud because I haven't thought about this. Maybe it hasn't been actively a topic of promoting the culture. So maybe culture is more something that is discussed in other topics, if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But I'll think about it from now on. It's a very interesting one. I think I will actively now think about topics I've had in school, elementary, high school, university, which were about that. Because for now, I actually find it an interesting one that we might not have it. That's
Yes.
also interesting. If we don't actually have that, what does that mean for
Yes.
our understanding of our own culture?
Yeah, seems like here actually there is no like specific subjects about that. But
Yeah.
I think they like add it to some subjects, but it's not really specific about tourism.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question.
So thank you for the questions, Malik. I don't know it's answer your question or not, but we have tried to answer the questions.
Definitely. And I'm also through with my questions for now. Thank you a lot, Yohan and Dita, for for sharing your thoughts and your opinions and your expertise. Just quickly summing up what we've discussed. A lot of things, obviously. So maybe it's good with a brief wrap up. So in the realm of discussing tourism, what I have noted down during our talk is that tourism is important for the economy of Indonesia, and the way that tourism is attracted is also by promoting the culture and promoting the arts of, for example, gamelan and other practices, and in that way as well adding to the community. So also, the community service and not only, how do you say it, attracting certain spots that are like Bali that we discussed, where it's just one place and that can be a money machine and that is all fine, but in a more diverse way of making sure that the local communities as well benefit and as well are promoted. Yes, I don't know if I covered that well, otherwise you can comment on it.
You did it really well.
Thank you. And then we've discussed a bit how school accommodates tourism and the different kinds of tourists. And I found it so beautiful what you both said. Well, everyone is welcome and everyone is our guest, and learning a couple of rituals and the meaning behind those rituals is just highly appreciated because it also minimizes misunderstandings, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we have discussed a lot of things. So jadi warga budaya kita udah diskusiin banyak banget hal dari yang tadi sesi pertama, dan di sesi kedua ini kita tadi diskusiin soal gimana apa yang perlu ditingkatin dari pariwisata di Indonesia, dan gimana apakah udah ada gitu pelajaran khusus atau subjek khusus di anak dari mulai SD sampai kuliah bahkan gitu tuh yang mengajarkan soal promosi kebudayaan atau pariwisata Indonesia. Jadi aku dan Yohan rasa kita udah diskusi banyak banget, dan ini udah waktunya kita undur suara. And I'll ask maybe Melike, could you try to close this program?
Yes, I want to close it by saying take care and enjoy your evening, and sampai jumpa di siaran berikutnya. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Dari Komplek Balai Budaya Minomartani Ngaglik Sleman, inilah Radio BBM, jaringan radio komunitas Yogyakarta.
Community Radio BBM FM, Creation for Nation.
Radio Komunitas BBM FM. Dukunglah budaya Indonesia.
Terima kasih. Anda sedang mendengarkan Radio Komunitas BBM FM 107,7 MHz.